Most welcome, most welcome.
Yeah. So I should probably give a brief introduction for those who might be tuning in later on.
Mhm.
So I'm Daniel, and this is my esports business. So here we delve into the real life inner workings of the gaming and esports ecosystem
Mhm.
through the lenses through the lenses of those who experience daily realities of the ecosystem. So, and I'm privileged to have one of such here, Kenya's James Carano. Thank you very much once again.
Thank you very much for having me.
Yeah. So I think we should just delve into the conversation then. Okay, so I haven't known you for so long, and when I actually reached out to you, it felt a bit weird because I'm deeply introverted, and yeah, so I didn't know what to expect. I didn't know how I was going to feel about it, but you just said, "Oh, yeah, sure." I was like, "Oh wow." that is, I'm so grateful. Thank you very much once again.
Most
So
welcome.
yeah. So I'm just wondering, can you maybe like introduce yourself and walk us through your journey in esports? How long have you been here? What have you done and stuff like that?
Okay, thank you so much.
Yeah.
Um, I've been okay. For first of all, for those of you that are don't know me well, my name is James Carano. I'm an esports personality, uh, hailing from Kenya. That's in East Africa.
Yeah.
I am a retired esports athlete, come commentator, come team manager, um, as well as a content creator, and also anything along the lines of the business of esports. That's my forte. So yes, I started in esports. Um, if I can count like in my adult life, that was
Hmm.
13 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah, around the year 2012. And it came out of the blue because um, I was probably I was mostly based around the FPS shooter CS:GO.
Okay.
That's currently
Okay.
called CS2 right now.
Mhm.
That's Counter Strike. And if I count my junior years, it's now been 24 years. That I
Wow.
started in the year 2001.
Wow.
Yeah. And in my junior years, I started in the FGC genre, that's fighting games. And
Okay.
I was mainly into Tekken. I also dabbled a little bit in Mortal Kombat, but I was mainly like a Tekken person.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's where all of that started.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Very
Mm.
interesting.
Thank you.
2001, then 2012, then wow.
Yeah.
This.
I also do have a story along the lines of where my passion for gaming started.
Okay.
Um, I I think that was around the ages of 6 or 7.
Okay.
There was this back in the day. There was this handheld device called the
Okay.
Brick Game, um,
Okay.
or for like the global audience, what's known as Tetris.
Yeah.
There was a time when like those devices were really moving. Most of
Mm.
them were like the bootleg um, Nintendo Game Boy type of device.
Yeah.
Um, I've I've been trying to find like the actual manufacturer, but I've never found out. But I remember when I saw my friends, having it, I told my parents, like I've got to get one like this. My mom, with a lot of empathy, of course, was like, "You just pass the exam and you'll get it," which I did.
Nice.
I was that passionate. So just having it and playing it, really, like my mind was so engrossed into that device.
Yeah.
Then there was there was a device that was manufactured by a company called Tiger Electronics that's based in the
Mhm.
US.
Okay.
There's a game, they have different like games for those devices, but there
Yeah.
is one particular one that they had made that a friend of mine had, a neighbor actually, that was
Okay.
for X-Men.
Oh.
So um the actually my um I'd say it was more like a culture shock when I saw that device. I was actually shocked because of the audio that the game had. Just the
Okay.
ability of hearing someone speak through,
Yeah.
the device.
Yeah.
And if you see today, like that's something very simple.
Yep.
When I used to hear like Wolverine say X-Men forever, that blew my mind. I was like, wow. And everyone used to look at me like, like that's nothing big, but for me it was huge. It was like poetry for me. So I was like, that's how my actual true passion for gaming started. Just seeing all that manifest was crazy for me.
Wow.
So yeah,
Wow.
yeah.
You have a pretty long history with gaming.
Oh yeah.
And
Oh yeah. Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, so what would you say was your proudest moment during your time as a pro player?
Uh-huh. I think my proudest moment was there was a particular period of my career when um I was trying out for there's this game, this esports title called Rainbow Six Siege.
Okay.
Yes. I really got into the South African community, and what made me so proud was um my performance at the game. That
Oh,
I started gaining some notoriety amongst the well-known people in the community. I To the point where I even tried out for some South African teams. I've played for, I think, one of them, although that was like we were banding together with some players that I knew, and we decided, okay, let's play this tournament together. And by the time I got to that point, I was like I'm actually playing like a professional. Um, so I was so proud of that moment in time when I actually did that. The
yeah.
other point was when um, I, w- I there was a particular time when Rainbow Six Siege esports globally was on a very, like, they were having a very high moment.
Okay.
That was in the year 2018, around February, when this global event called the Six Invitational was taking place.
Okay.
And um, I think many can argue that for Siege Esports, that was the time when the game actually blew up. And there were a lot of people that started buying the game, um, myself included, because, I just used to, I see how people play it from like a third person view, and
Yep.
I'm like, I really want to do something with this game. So I bought the
Mm.
game just out of the pressure of my community here.
Okay.
Um, and they kept pushing me like, we would like to have like a Rainbow Six Siege tournament and the like. To which I agreed. I had barely any knowledge in regards to this game. So I was more like a Call of Duty person. For those of
Oh,
you, the people that know the Techno Gods version of that game, I was more into
okay.
Call of Duty that time, and Counter Strike.
Okay.
So I had to um, watch. like professional games, see how the game is played, see
Mm-hmm.
the notable personalities in the community as well as professional players, how this game is run. And I think the time when I decided, okay, I need to host like an actual African tournament,
Okay.
um, I contacted like every single person that I know in
Okay.
every like African country that
Wow.
actually has a community that plays this game. And I was like, despite like the high latency for the game,
Mm-hmm.
because we were getting like a latency of like 200 plus, which was crazy. I think the
Yeah.
only people that were getting like under 200 were the guys in West Africa, Nigeria, Ghana,
Okay.
Tunisia, um, the North and West African countries. They were, they were barely surviving, but
Mm.
um, they had it much easier compared to like people in South Africa. I think South Africa was the one that was the suffering the most. And what was surprising was the the event that I had held.
Yep.
Um, they had the most teams. They had like roughly three quarters of the whole tournament was just particularly South Africans. The tournament had like, was it? I think it was almost 20 teams, if I'm not wrong, which was
Wow.
crazy. And I was the only one that was doing like all the work, social media, promotion, live
Wow.
streaming the game, casting the game,
Wow.
um, as well as looking for sponsors and all that. It
Mm.
it was mad crazy. If
Wow.
you're able to look, there's an event called PAGU, or what we used to call PAGU. It stands for Pan African Gaming Union.
Okay.
That was back in the day. The
Okay.
community that existed for Rainbow Six back then know that event very well,
Okay.
and we ran like a full season um,
Wow.
of that particular game, and we call it the Pagu Africa Rainbow Six uh, season one.
Wow.
Yeah. Um, there's a YouTube channel actually that I'm currently hosting. It's called
Okay.
Player X Africa. You can be able to search those games there. If you need a
Mm.
link, I can always share that. Like
Oh,
the
fine.
playlist is all there, and it was crazy. By the time I was done with hosting that event, I was so proud of myself that I could actually do it on my own. Despite throwing like cold calls to potential um, event organizers, to host the game. um, None of them showed up, and I
Wow.
can give, yeah, like absolutely nobody showed up. There's only one particular person, or I can say a group of people, but the talks fell apart because we could not agree on how the hosting could be done. So
Okay.
I decided to do the whole thing on my own, and that's also another way how the the event became successful, to the point that they kept asking, when is the next one, when is the next one. I think there were some interruptions in between because I was moving houses, so I could not host a second season again. I was hoping to do so, but life happened, and
Mhm.
at the time I was also really into managing my own team. So I think that's how I moved now um, from hosting the tournament to now managing a team of players in different esports titles. So
Wow.
uh, yeah, that's what happened.
Oh, that's a lot. I mean, you're literally a legend.
Mm.
I
Trust me,
mean, because
I'm just grateful to God that all that happened. Yeah,
wow.
yeah.
So, how many years would you say that was? I mean, talking about being a pro player.
Um, Being a pro player, I started that in that was 2018, like actually seriously becoming a pro player.
Okay.
So yeah, and then I decided to retire in that was in 2022, if I'm not wrong, somewhere around
Okay.
there. Yeah, I think it was 2021 or 22. That's when now I made the announcement.
Oh,
Um, yeah, so I decided to now focus on family, and that's where my life went after that.
yeah.
Yeah, but I still stayed in the space because I was open to like coaching. I was open to um, like panels and also talks. I was open to
Mhm.
managing teams as well. Any team,
Okay.
any esports organization that had a team that needed management, I was also open to that as well.
Mm.
And also on top of that, I uh, started bringing back my love for content creation. So yeah,
Oh,
that's why I continued now making content.
yeah.
Yeah.
So you're practically still within the space, not just doing pro playing anymore.
Yes.
Exactly.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah.
Hmm.
So now esports can be intense and short-lived. I mean, 2018 to 2022, I know it would have involved a lot, but what helped you last as long as you did? I
Uh,
think that's a good question. Right.
yeah. Yeah. Actually, that's a really good question. Um, one was passion.
Okay.
Um, at the time, I was not like the best of the best in on the African continent,
Okay.
but I just I wanted to be one of the best talents within the game that I played.
Okay.
The other one also was I wanted to create a path where now other players can also follow
Okay.
and be be like a guide
Okay.
for them, um like creating a path to success. Basically that's
Yeah.
what I wanted to do.
Mm.
The other one was I also wanted Africa to be in the conversation of game publishers and
Yeah.
developers when they're making the games. I wanted Africa to be a part of consideration, the same
Yeah.
way their peers in America and Europe are
Yeah.
considered. Um, Africa has never gotten to that point, but I can see now there seems to be some traction happening. I think
Yeah.
over the last couple of years, which is truly admirable. Like
Yeah.
it also makes me so proud to be part of the makers of
Yeah.
of what's happening to Africa at this point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Awesome.
yeah.
Awesome. So when you were talking the other time, I think you said something about trying to get sponsorships and stuff like that.
Hmm. Hmm.
How did sponsorships factor into the sustainability of your career? And what's just your general experience with sponsorships? You know,
Um, I think the same the same accord that the game publishers have for our region, Africa, is the
yeah.
same one also that sponsors have, especially particularly gaming sponsors. The likes of the Logitechs, the Steel Series,
Mm.
um, the Red Bulls, all those big global brands. There's somehow some effect or some view that they have for Africa, which is
Mm.
not very large. Um, they they probably view it like what we call they call it experimental marketing.
Oof.
When these companies are making their budgets for the year, Africa is
Mm.
like okay, they let's try Africa. We see what happens, if things go well, we will come back a second time. If it doesn't, we'll draw our budget back. Um,
Wow.
yeah, so that's it's the unfortunate point that Africa is in, but that's where we're at. If you compare with sponsors that are local, you can
Okay.
say, for example, what we call the household brands in every country in Africa.
Okay.
A good one, for example, like in Kenya, there was Liquid Telecom. Or what changed now to what we call Liquid Technologies. They were really
Okay.
invested in the esports space. They gave large amounts of money just for the sake of esports to be able to see it take off.
Yeah.
It's unfortunate that they drew back their budgets. That was a couple of years ago, and that's because the company was having a cash crunch. They let
Okay.
go of a lot of people from the companies, and it was unfortunate that they couldn't go big in terms of sponsorships. So they really started to reduce their marketing budget so that they can be able to focus on now trying to make money and survive.
Yeah.
I think it also came and affected other companies as well that do events in our space,
Okay.
that really dependent on them to make or to to host their events.
Yeah.
So some of those events also kind of either died down or they started looking for other sponsors.
Wow.
Yeah, so it was very unfortunate. We,
Wow.
we have other brands that
Okay.
still sponsor the space. I've heard of
Okay.
the likes of Nivea, I think in Nigeria, that still do that,
Okay.
particularly for, if I'm not wrong, Gamer X, uh, which I'm hearing is coming very soon, the one for this year. I don't know whether they're still sponsoring the same event, but Nivea has been very helpful in the space.
Mm-hmm.
We've seen the likes of ASUS in South Africa, the Republic of Gamers brand, that sponsor Metal State. Metal State is an events organizer there.
Wow.
Um, we've seen Carry Fast that are currently doing. I think they've done the Carry Fast Cup, Africa Cup. That's for
Okay.
Call of Duty, which has been largely successful. And I think we really owe our thanks to them because finally Africa got recognition when, as a region, it's now been included in the Call of Duty Mobile Global Championships.
Yeah.
So yeah, that has never happened before. That is a first of its kind. So we really owe our gratitude to Carry Fast for the hard work those guys have put in.
Yeah.
Um, I think among other brands, I think Red Bull is also still in the space. They particularly sponsor athletes.
Okay.
I've seen one athlete in South Africa. I keep forgetting his name, but he mains in FIFA, if I'm not wrong. Um, yeah, but he's been very quiet, so I would like to hear from him quite a lot. But you know, his contribution to the South African space is probably what got him, the sponsorship by Red Bull. The other one,
Wow.
of course, is the renowned Queen Arrow,
Yep.
who um, is predominant, especially in like the social media space.
Yep.
You see her speak on X right here, and also on Instagram,
Yeah.
and also a few times here and there you'll see her do some live streams when she gets the time, and things like that. So yeah, so Red Bull is still here. We do hope they do some more recruitments in the space.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
So much. Thank you very much for sharing all of that.
Mhm.
So just for you to know, actually, I've been writing.
Mhm.
I've been
Ah.
writing a lot. Yes, I
Ah.
have.
Okay.
So
Okay.
my mind, yeah.
Mhm.
So um, let me now ask this question because I think you already answered a question. So I
Mhm.
think I'll just leave that and just go. So what was the hardest part about transitioning out of pro play? Was there anything? Do you get me?
Yeah.
The
Yeah.
hardest part.
Yes. Yes.
Yeah.
Hmm. I think number one, the hardest part is now saying goodbye. As cliche as it sounds, yes, it was very hard because I invested so much of my time.
Mm-hmm.
Then you get to the point where you're like, it's really hard to say goodbye. Um, and the you know moving on to a different phase of life um,
Yeah.
was it was quite difficult, and also the culture shock in between trying to balance family and the esports lifestyle of putting a lot of time, especially like you have to put practice there if you're a pro player, do scrims with different teams, learn strategies, here and there. And also for me, my content creation part, it took a very big hit.
Mm.
Seeing as that I was also dedicating time to that. So I had to cut back on the content creation,
Yeah.
then also, going into, for the competitive titles, like there's always like a competitive mode or like ranked where you have to
Mhm.
put so much of your hours into it. And,
Yeah.
having to like cut back those hours means every time a season drops, you'll be among the lowest ranked players. And yeah, for me I was like, I can't start grinding up once again, back to the high levels, because
Mhm.
I have to put more time into family. So yeah, it was very tough. That one was very, very tough for me.
Yeah.
At
Very, very.
this very, I think at the same time I also had to reduce the number of hours that I dedicate to managing the players that I had. Some
Okay.
players would think probably it's because either I'm absent or things like that. But I always liked to know how the players I'm managing are developing, skill
Yeah.
wise, where their mindset is at,
Mhm.
how their games are going within specific tournaments and events, and overall like player and staff welfare, very important. So
Yeah.
that one also took a hit as well. So yeah,
Wow.
I think those ones in particular were my most hardest moments of
Wow.
transitioning away from professional play and also from esports as a whole.
Wow.
Yeah.
Uh, I think life generally just has this transition thing.
Yes.
We all experience at certain points in time. So,
Hmm.
very interesting. So have you been able to leverage your athlete brand or relationship in these other new ventures you mentioned? You talked about being a commentator,
Hmm.
team management, content creation, and stuff like that.
Hmm.
Has there been a way to leverage the relationship over time? I mean, do you get me?
Mm, sorry, repeat again.
Or have you been able to leverage your athlete brand, the one you built over the years, and
Hmm.
then the relationships you also built in these new things you do now, some of
Hmm.
which you've been doing while being a pro player, like managing teams and stuff like that?
Hmm. Um, I think yes.
Okay.
Um, I think in terms of managing players, I've learned a lot about people's personalities. They're very important. And a lot of people, especially within the team management hemisphere, don't understand that it's very important to know your players. Every single player has a particular personality. And you might find even in between games, or even just generally players clashing with each other just because either, this player doesn't like that player. And there are even some cases where you find players like ganging up against one particular player to try to kick them out of the team.
Oh,
And sometimes it's so bad and so toxic that you're like, we can't do that. It becomes very unfair, especially to the player that is being targeted. So you have to use some, what I'd call Solomonic wisdom, when looking for a win-win situation between these particular players. So, which is very hard. So even when I'm given like a gig to manage a certain team, I have to go in with that mindset that, these players have different personalities. I have to learn and understand them, and, create an environment where they can not only just have fun with each other, but
yeah.
also understand each other individually.
Okay.
Because um, one thing that they have to understand is like a team is like a family.
Yeah.
Families have different dynamics. In a family, there's this aunt that doesn't like this uncle, but at the end of the day, they have to come to dinner, all of them, and eat
Yeah.
together.
Yeah.
Yes. So you have to use the dinner to make sure that, they can understand each other and, quote unquote, love each other for who they are,
Yeah.
and so that they can make their relationships work.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know if that answers the question well.
Well, I think you actually addressed some things I didn't really even intend,
Mm-hmm.
by by this answer, but
Mm-hmm.
we're almost rounding up also, so let me just push forward a bit.
Okay, no problem.
I want to believe that during your career you've had the opportunity of building networks, relationships,
Mm-hmm.
and things like that. So I'm just trying to see how it has impacted your journey
Mm-hmm.
after pro esports, you know, after after playing professionally and now doing the things that you do,
Yes.
if how those relationships have been able to, you know, impact your journey, even up to now.
Ah, okay. Um, if I can repeat the question correctly, how has my relationships affected
Yeah,
um, my transition
you,
now after?
yeah, I
Uh,
can picture.
okay. Um, I can see on the professional side, it
Okay.
it's been able to, um, I can say, learn um, people's personal lives,
Okay.
as intrusive as it may be. Sometimes you're in a team and someone talks to you and tells you, okay, I'm still in school, I have to study,
Yeah.
have to pass these exams. And after you're done with like your pro life,
Mm-hmm.
the only thing you want to hear is that, that person passed their exams, and the
Yeah.
career that they were pursuing, they've now achieved it. Maybe say they've got a job, whether it's a white collar or blue collar job,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe they've started a business or anything along those lines.
Yeah.
I think in terms of sponsors, it's always knowing, how, and always the best way to get these sponsors, and I can say investors as well, is
Okay.
you have to have like a personal relationship with them. and
Yeah.
and that's how deep it goes, because the more years you spend with a sponsor, the
Yeah.
better the relationship gets.
Yeah.
You start understanding um, what the sponsor wants, and sometimes also you have to get into the personal life of that sponsor.
Yeah.
Maybe say understand what is their life out of esports. What do
Mm-hmm.
they do on a regular day? Do they have family? What do they spend their time most in? Just out of what you guys do together.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can find, let's say, a good example, the marketing manager of a particular
Okay.
brand. Let's say,
Okay.
um, let's say Red Bull or Asus or whichever.
Okay.
Um, it's a single mom, and they have like a kid that's really interested in the esports space, and that's what
Mm.
now pulled her to the space. So yours is to know how is the child developing, how far are they going in terms of their esports journey, or
Yeah.
their love for esports in particular, or how are they progressing um, in this particular game. Say
Okay.
if they're still underage, some of them could be 7 years, some could be 11, 12,
Mm.
and the like. So just
Yeah.
having that personal relationship with individual people within these sponsors or these companies helps you to understand, okay, the more personal we become, the stronger that relationship becomes. So yeah, I was I was I was really blessed to actually have come across Liquid. To some of the audience that also don't know about this,
Mm.
Liquid Telecom or Liquid Technologies, as they're called now,
Okay.
the the we call him the chief technology. I think chief technology officer. I think that's what he was called at the time. CTO.
Okay.
Ben Roberts. Him, and then also I think it was the CFO or something.
Mm.
Really had a passion for esports, and they wanted to see it thrive.
Oh,
Um, there is an event organizer that I was tied to.
okay.
Um, she took me round to actually see Liquid. That was the first time that I actually came in contact with Liquid, and I was like, wait, I think we need these guys in the space.
Mm.
And at the time, I was in charge. I was the marketing director of a company called Gaming for Kenya. That's how I came
Okay.
into contact with all these guys.
Wow.
This lady that had taken me round, she had a sister
Okay.
who was unwell at the
Okay.
time, and
Okay.
um, you know, I don't know how we came into discussing like her family, but she brought it up all of a sudden. So my interest started coming on the lines of, how is your sister coming along?
Mm.
Um, Sad to say that years after that, I think the sister passed away,
Oh.
and that's how now our conversations started revolving around, and I started knowing that, okay, understanding the welfare of particular people really strengthens the relationship that you have with them. So that's
Yeah.
how now I started understanding, you know, um, how important this family member is to this person.
Mm.
I think the second time I did that was with Ben Roberts, the then CTO of Liquid.
Okay.
He told us that his son was really into Roblox.
Okay.
And I don't know what it is, but like a lot of kids, I think especially in Africa, are really into Roblox. And I'm like, where was Roblox during my time? So it seems like our conversations revolve around Roblox quite a lot. So that's now how I start introducing them into the world of esports,
Mhm.
and it always starts with Fortnite. So a lot of kids are usually into that. So yeah, that's the first place I usually throw them. So yeah, either Fortnite or Rocket League. So yeah,
Okay.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah,
awesome.
yeah.
So, if there's anything I've seen from all you've said, we cannot ignore the place of building that personal connection,
Mm-hmm.
one on one,
Yes.
even beyond the business of it, because it strengthens whatever it is you're going to do in business. It improves trust, and things
Yes.
like that. Yeah.
Absolutely. Actually, that's the key word you've used, trust. That's the most important thing, especially when
Yeah.
building a relationship with either a person or a business. So, yeah.
I see a lot of long-term, multi-year partnerships, the one involving McDonald's. And I ask myself, like, how have they been able to maintain something like this for like 41 years? You see some, and, I believe a great deal of investment have been, made to allow those relationships stand the test of time, you know.
Yes. Absolutely. Absolutely.
So, I'm just going to ask you the final question. So
Mhm.
I'll let you go. All
Okay.
right.
Okay.
So what would you say to younger players thinking long term about
Mhm.
their careers, you know, in pro sports?
Um, I think right now, what I
Mm-hmm.
can say is, I think esports is just generally like how sports in general is, and that's why I think we call it electronic sports. There's a culture around it that has been built to enable people, um, what I can say is find a path to success in whichever line
Mm-hmm.
it is. Um, as of right now, I can say, people might tell me on, okay, buy Africa, build Africa. Yes, that is true. But what I can say is, you need to learn from the people that have succeeded from the global
Yeah.
landscape, so that you can
True.
apply what you have like here
Mm-hmm.
locally.
Yeah.
Um,
True.
the first ones, of course, I can start with is the professional players.
Mm-hmm.
When I was managing these particular teams, the one thing that I really wanted was to build relationships with like these established esports organizations,
Yeah.
outside there, the likes of
Mm-hmm.
FaZe Clan,
Mm-hmm.
Cloud9, Team Liquid,
Yeah.
the G2s,
Mm-hmm.
T1s, all those big, big teams.
Yeah.
I wanted to build a relationship to be able to help these players now transition from, these particular teams that we are running and hosting here locally up to now
Mm-hmm.
those points. It's the same
Yeah.
way you'd see, like, um, let's say, for example, football players.
Okay.
You'd see either a player like, let's say, who's a good football player? I think from Africa, like Sadio Mane, let's say.
Okay.
Um, how I think he was able to join Liverpool, if I'm not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, he transitioned in between one team to another just before he could make it to Liverpool. Of course, they don't usually make it directly unless maybe they have this outstanding talent that has brought the scouts all the way to Africa. They'll
Mm-hmm.
probably either go to either Scotland or Belgium or all these other European countries before they now get to the English Premier League.
Yeah.
That's the same landscape I wanted to build for these particular players who really want to make it out there, so that by the
Yeah.
time now they're done, up, playing in those global professional games, they can now come back to Africa and say, okay, I need to invest in Africa.
Yeah.
A good example of a player that actually did this was, if you know basketball, there's a player called Luol Deng, if I'm not wrong. I I really loved what he did. He's
Mm-hmm.
from South Sudan, by the way.
Okay.
He went and played for the NBA. Got all those years of experience that he had, then
Yeah.
came back to his home country and
Okay.
started nurturing the talent that came from that particular country.
Mm-hmm.
Um, then came the story of, I think it was last year, when I think it was the Olympics, if I'm not wrong. that happened
Okay.
where the performance of the South Sudanese basketball team, they really shocked the Americans.
Wow.
They gave them a run for their money to the point where I think everyone was talking about it. Like, where did
Wow.
these guys come from? Like, who did what?
I need to go
Then,
check it out.
yeah, like, I think if I get those links, I'll be able to share those with you as well.
Oh, thank you.
They found out that the guy who was actually managing the players was a former NBA retired uh, basketball player.
Wow.
So you see the much time and investment this guy gave, what he
Yeah.
learned, the knowledge he gained from playing as a professional
Wow.
in the States. That knowledge is what he brought back home, invested in the
Yeah.
players that were there, and then now that's what brought the shock factor that they gave during the Olympics last year. So
Yeah.
I really admired that, and that's really what I wanted for our African players to do.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, if they can be recruited to these big organizations, the knowledge that
Okay.
they have when they attend, these international championships, what they have garnered, they should come back home and impart that knowledge into the younger guys that are coming up,
Yeah, man.
so that they can also do the same if they're either going out there, or even better, if they can start now creating individual teams here so that we can be able to create our own ecosystem
Yeah.
for professional events here in Africa. I believe it's very, very possible. It can happen. All it
Mm.
needs is just, you know, um, consistency
Mm-hmm.
and also determination. Like, they
Yeah.
need to be really invested and passionate in growing the esports scene in Africa. So yeah,
Yeah.
yes,
Wow.
yeah.
Well, it's not so much. And particularly what you said ties with principle I believe in
Hmm.
concerning Africa, because I'm very pro Africa. I'm passionate about the continent, and I believe that the salvation of Africa can only come from outside in. I don't know if you get
Yes,
what I'm saying. It can
yes,
only come from
absolutely.
outside in, not in. So sometimes you might have to leave the continent to come back. Stuff
Yes.
like that.
Oh, yes,
So,
absolutely. Mm.
it's something I believe in personally. And I've learned so much, honestly, from this conversation. Thank you so much for taking our time. I know it's quite late.
It's
It should
okay.
be like,
It's
yeah,
okay.
7:50. Yeah, thank you for taking out your time to talk to me and to share all
Mhm.
that you've, experienced over the years with me. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Most welcome. Most welcome. I
Yeah.
hope we can have even more talks beyond this.
Okay. Definitely.
Yeah, yeah.
I want to.
Hmm.
Yeah. So, because I got into the industry a
Hmm.
little over a year ago, you know,
Ah,
and a lot of what I've done, I just, staying on the books and reading and reading and reading and just wanting to see how things, work. I've had the opportunity of talking to, I mean, off this, I've had the opportunity of talking to, people that manage teams
hmm.
here in Nigeria. And I've got to see some things that you would not ordinarily see maybe outside, I mean,
Mm.
inner things happening within the scene. And, if you're not there, you won't know, you
Oh,
know,
yeah.
the ugly sides, the
Hmm.
okay side, and all of those things. But
Mm.
I'm just happy to be here. I'm happy to be within the space. And I hope to learn so much more. And I hope that anyone who will be listening to this later on would at least gain insight into some of the inner workings within the space. So
Mm.
that would, so thank you very much, James, for your time. Again, thank you very much. Really appreciate it.
Most welcome.
Yeah.
Might I say that, in as much as you say that you've been in the space for a year, it
Yeah.
sounds like the way we talk, it sounds like you've been in the space for years, many
Oops.
years. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, when I'm speaking to you, I'm like, wow, like you must have been here for like either 10 years or so. Yeah, which is crazy. So
You know,
when you say it's like one year, I'm like, what? No way. No way.
when I got in, I just wanted to learn as much as I possibly could. So I'm still learning a lot. There's so much I don't know, which actually was one of the reasons why I said, you know what, maybe we should have these kind of conversations. I mean, I've been buried in books. I've read across diverse aspects of the industry before deciding to want to stay in sponsorships and strategic partnerships and just the overall business of this space. So thank you for the compliment. It made me feel.
Most welcome. I think I've also had the pleasure of meeting also other personalities in the esports space in Nigeria.
Oh,
Um, some of whom are are in the esports federation,
okay.
as well as other tournament organizers, other players. I've played with Nigerians as well in Rainbow Six, by the way. Should I mention? Yeah, and it's so crazy. The the strides that Nigeria is doing are
Mhm.
are phenomenal. Like the point at which Nigeria is in right now, and if I can honestly say, I think Nigeria is the one that is making so much noise for Africa, and I can really give props to what you guys are doing. You're doing an
Oh,
amazing job.
thank you very much for your kind words.
Yeah.
Thank you so much. Thank you. And we hope things get better because things can always get better. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So, I think we would end it here. Thank you so much for the kind words, for the words of wisdom you shared based on your experience and things like that. I really do appreciate it. Thank you very much.
Most welcome. Most welcome.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I hope you enjoy the rest of your evening with your family. All right.
Thank you so much. You too.
Yeah.
Enjoy yourself as well.
Yeah.
Um, I hope to meet you the next time. Of course, in other circumstances, we can play online as well.
Yes.
I don't mind a session or two.
Absolutely. It will happen. It will happen.
Yeah.
Thank you very much. Yeah.
Most welcome. Okay. All right then.
All right.